Well, thank everybody. I'd like to thank you for coming. Purpose of this meeting, if you don't know already, we are here to try and provide you guys with as much information as we can give you to successfully file a claim, a tort claim against the Forest Service for their actions during the August complex. Question, ma'am?
How come we don't have a lawyer that's gonna do a class action, like they did over in Paradise or where Dog Fire or whatever they talked about?
So class actions have been done in the past, but the issue that you run into is lawyers are incredibly expensive. For people who have total loss or even partial loss, there's not a whole lot of extra funds for that. And for example, Lewiston Fire back in 1998, that class action is still in process. They have no means of money come in future. When you're suing the federal government, it's on your own dime.
Okay.
So it's a long drawn out process. We're hoping that people can use this money to rebuild. So by filing a federal tort claim, you're able to get exactly what you lost if you put the effort into claiming those items.
Whereas with a class action, like she was saying, you know, the Lewiston one's been going on for 15 or so years. Once you file a class action, you're not able to go back and file a tort claim. It's either one or the other. With the tort process that we're working through, all of our claims need to be filed within a 2-year period from the end of the fire. So at that time, they're not going to do anything on the paperwork until the end of that 2 years. At that time, they're going to start processing the claims, and hopefully by the end of the 3rd year, we will have an answer as to what they're going to give us or not give us, as opposed to stretching it out over the cost of 20 years and lawyer fees and everything else.
I will amend that a little bit. So we're expecting this to be done within 2 to 4 years. That's our time frame. And I did talk to someone even from the Lewiston Fire. He was one of the 3 that did a federal tort claim instead of pursuing a class action, and they were able to get paid out.
Oh, good.
So there is confirmation that this has worked in the past. Also, just because you have 2 years to file their claim, they can request more information after you submit your claim. So we're actually encouraging people, which is something we found out recently, to have your claim in by the end of this year. For timber, that might be a little bit further out, just because you have to get a forester. That's fine. That's what I said. For timber, it's a bit of an exception because you won't be able to get the foresters until this fall. But we are going to have more of the official information ready by midsummer that you can add to your claims, and we're going to keep doing these monthly meetings to help keep everyone on track.
So does that mean that when you file this claim at the end of that period, does that qualify you for replacement costs?
Yes. So this claim is for when you're filing, let's say for a quilt, you're going to be filing for the replacement value of that quilt, not what you bought the quilt for. Okay.
Good.
Right. So we only have a couple repeats from the prior meeting. So we're just going to go through the PowerPoint as before, and we do have some new information that we learned along the way that we can sneak in, but we're going to go through a couple of updates just to get it out of the way. Jim, could you give me the 3rd to last slide, which should say updates. I will let you do updates and all of it.
Okay, so as far as updates go, you know, they started the cleanup effort on the 31st. At the last meeting, actually approximately, I think it was just over 2 months ago now, a couple of us put together a list of the full-time residences that were burned out and submitted that to the county. We were told that that was going to be passed up the food chain and that those people would get priority. I found out 3 days ago that someone somewhere dropped the ball on that. I don't have any idea exactly who it was, but someone in the food chain dropped the ball. That list was not received by the people in charge of the cleanup until approximately a week and a half ago. So for all you locals, I apologize. We tried. I'm not exactly sure what happened there. The current game plan, as I understand it, as of 3 days ago, they have a team. They have 3 teams working on the cleanup right now. One is starting down there by the Ruth Rec area, down by Hillbilly's Place, Eagle's Nest. Have one group starting there working this direction. A second team started back up here at Joe and Peggy's place. They're working out Little Field and headed back off to the southeast toward Three Forks. And then we have the third team is over at Black Bart's on the back side of the lake. They're cleaning up at Black Bart's and then moving in the Hettenshaw direction. So that is what we know as far as that right now. Hillbilly.
Yeah, just for everybody's own edification, someone had spoke to the guys that were there at my place doing the cleanup, and they were to leave a Jeep that the rear half of it was damaged, but the front motor and the tires and all were good. And they were asked to set it aside, and they said they would. And when I came by, the water truck driver, who I know quite well, who also lost his place, happened to notice him take it to the site and crush it into a little ball and haul it off. So if you have anything on your property, and we were supposed to be notified too, before they went into the property, and I wasn't notified except for friends call and say, hey, they're right next door to your place. You better get over there. And I was lucky I had friends and a place to put what little I wanted to get out of there or could get out. Everything was pretty much gone. But so if there's anything on your properties and they haven't got there yet, they're moving quite fast. They've already got the place in this last week. They did the place next to me on one side, plus the place up above me, plus my place, plus the place below me, and it moved on down the hill toward Ruth Rec. So they are moving very fast. So if there's anything of value, you need to get it.
So they're doing about 3 places a day. Make sure that you get your pictures if you haven't already. And if you can't move the item out of your place, you need in bright neon letters, spray paint save on it.
Or they told us pink ribbon or something like that they do not use.
Well, they did use pink ribbon for asbestos.
Well,
So,
I think
yeah.
that was paint, paint,
Yeah.
spray, it's paint. But they
Yes.
told us pink ribbon because
Okay.
they used the.
okay.
They put a
Not
yellow
all that
ribbon
they
on,
use.
on
That's
ours
what
that we
the,
wish to save.
Okay.
Supervisor of the cruise told us.
Yeah, we were told big bold letters and neon spray paint. But either way, make it clear, and they, as Hillbilly said, they should be notifying you, but because of the chain, it's all gotten jumbled in their initial attempt. And
Well, I talked to the boys working there, and they are on a schedule.
yes,
And when I told them that it was supposed to be aside, they apologized and everything. And they even came down and offered to help me move a boat. You know, they're real friendly people. Just it's like when I worked for the county, you know, a whole bunch of chiefs and not enough Indians.
Yeah.
So as far as the cleanup process itself is supposed to work, you're supposed to get a 2-day, 24 to 48 hour notification when they come on. If you are going to be on site, they require that you stay 150 feet away from the action going on. Once your place is cleaned up, the county is going to be coming in, taking soil tests, and they will give you those results. Before any permits will be issued by the county is supposed to be sending you a letter that will say that your permit has been cleared and finalized. And then at that point, if you already have permits in, they will start issuing permits at that point. As far as, how many leaseholders do we have here down on the lake? Yeah, lease lots, okay. So as far as septic tanks and stuff go, if you are not a leaseholder, there is not really going to be, they said they do not need a septic tank check. If you are a leaseholder, what the water district is requiring and what the county is requiring, because you're in the sensitive area around the lake, you have to expose the top of your septic tank. That septic tank has to be inspected by the county, maybe pumped, stuff like that. So your septic tanks have to be checked if you are a leaseholder. So that is the one main difference between the private property owners and the leaseholders, if you're on the lake, you're gonna have to have your lease, septic tank checked, possibly pumped, and then they can, start moving forward with the permit process.
There is a mass sign up on Facebook right now that they're trying to get a discount for the leaseholders so that the company, I believe it's J&J, can come out and do multiple parcels at once. So that they're trying to get a group fund, not fund, but a group price for that. So if you don't have Facebook, have a friend who has Facebook, with roof leaseholders, get on and add your name to that list.
5 or 6 years ago, that was $800-900 each.
The price I saw,
600 is what I.
yeah, thank you,
How much?
6.
6.
Okay. Now, as far as the logging goes, there, as you can tell, coming up through here, we're moving ahead pretty quick on that side of the world. I'm actually fairly heavily involved in that as well. The logging on the lease sites will not take place until after the actual commercial logging. We have the hazard tree, the FEMA guys, Atlas, and the other tree service people that you see around right now. They are actively on sites, taking out the trees the FEMA marked for them. As far as the commercial logging on the water district property, that is going to take place after the sites have been cleared of all the hazardous debris and stuff. So Morris Logging and Boak, and I think it's just the two right now. Ford I think may come out, and Two Brothers. But as far as the commercial logging goes, the sites are going to be cleaned up before we go in there and log and make a mess again. But Morris Logging is contracted to do a pretty decent job cleaning up those sites. So I don't believe you're going to be allowed to do anything on your parcel until after the logging is done. So, and I would not recommend moving anything back onto your parcel until after the logging is done, because sometimes timber fallers miss their mark when they're falling a tree, and that's personal experience. That's me. So there's a good chance that I'm going to be one of the ones killing your trees. So, but anyways, as far as any other questions as far as the cleanup and any of that,
I was gonna ask about the logging.
go ahead.
Are they required on private property to notify the property owner before they come, or can they just come and go in there and start cutting trees down?
If there is some sort of an agreement with Steve Morris Logging on that, I am not in the loop on that. I just cut the trees. The agreements that were made with the Water District, Jeff Meyer and Steve Morris Logging, I am not on the intricacies of what is involved in that, so I cannot answer that question
But this
for
is
you.
on private property I'm talking about, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, there's some contracts that involves private property on that. I don't know. Steve and Jake Morris would be involved in that as far as which pieces they are under contract to log. Other pieces that they're not under contract to log, I'm.
But who would be making the contracts with them? With like Steve?
It would typically be the landowner. They would be in contact with the landowner.
Well, we think they're on our property, maybe, and cutting trees down, and nobody's ever contacted us. We don't know, it's Atlas that's doing it.
So if it's Atlas that's doing it, that is part of the FEMA work that is going on.
But would we still would they have been required to notify us? Hey,
Atlas
we're
is
gonna
not.
be there?
That is a hazard tree removal deal that is part of the whole FEMA thing.
Okay, and it
So-
wouldn't be PG&E then, because we thought maybe it was because.
It would be related to the PG&E
Okay.
But
probably
FEMA
stuff.
can't touch their trees unless they signed up for the cleanup, right?
If you gave an ROE, then you gave permission, but they do not have to notify or
Yeah,
have
for
not
the
been
right of
notified.
entry stuff, for the.
I did do that now
Okay.
with
Then-
Trinity County,
They
so
give it to
I
everybody.
gave them authorization.
They give it to
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, then not with your permission.
That's what I told them, no.
But I did put on there, I know I put on the form, because I even have it here, that we wanted to be notified before anybody entered our property.
So when you sign
Nobody
the right
did
of
that,
entry, you
and they
give
have
up all
two
that
different
information.
Places that they could call, myself and another number, and we were never notified.
The communication there's way too much going on for all the communication to be efficient at this point.
So what should I do at this point, just to get more information? Should I call Trinity and say, I authorized it, and they're there, but they didn't tell us, and wanna know
Call
what's going on?
Christy Anderson at Trinity.
It would be, yeah, Christy Anderson, probably gonna be point on that, but at this point, also getting a hold of anybody over there in the county is extremely difficult.
Environmental health,
So-
I've had some luck recently, but make sure to get your answer while you're on the phone with them, because a callback is not usually followed through with.
You probably
And
need this
so
more than I do.
what are,
My voice is a little
do you know
louder.
what, they're following them, what are they gonna do with them? Are they
So
gonna-
it is up, on private land, it is up to the property owner. They are supposed to leave them in partial decks, they've been cutting odd lengths for Atlas, but their job is just to make sure that they're on the ground.
So then somebody would be contacting us at a certain point saying, what do you want us to do with these logs on the ground?
Possibly.
Possibly, but as a private landowner, it is on you to a certain extent.
Okay.
So those decks would be there depending on how much trees you had. I would reach out to either Jeff Meyer or Steve Morris at this point if you want to sell those logs.
Can I ask a clarification?
Yes.
If it's on them, are you saying that it's up to them to decide what to do with the trees that are on the ground, or that they're supposed to tell Atlas what to do with the trees? Which of those?
They don't really get to tell.
Yeah, they don't get to tell Atlas
So
what to do.
Atlas does as it will.
Atlas
and
puts
then-
the trees on the ground, they're contracted to remove the hazardous trees, get them safely on the ground, and then what
Property
they,
owner
what
from
they
there
have to
forward.
do is grind up
Okay.
the chips and stuff and kinda clean up the mess as best they can, but Atlas is not required to remove the trees.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify
Correct.
what the landowner has to do.
Yeah.
So you have to decide and set that in motion yourself.
All right. And then I believe you were next.
In regards to the cleanup, if we're not living on the property at the now, do they notify you when they're coming out or after it's done, or
So they are
how do you know?
supposed to give 48-hour notice.
Okay,
That,
Whether or
Something
not they
happening.
do, it appears to be, an issue.
okay.
find a local out here that's still out here, basically.
Didn't show up.
In any manner
They notify
before or after.
They notified me when they were there.
Yeah.
So they gave you an hour and a half notice?
That's my
notice.
Good thing you left the house.
Phone.
Whatever contact
Yeah,
number you
there-
gave
there-
the
There should be
county.
a contact number that they have with the right of entry stuff and all of that, and they are supposed to contact the number that you gave.
So find a friend who's still out here and just have them drive by, know that they are doing 3 parcels, so if they're within a quarter mile to a mile of your place, know that you're within the next couple of days.
I noticed that they mentioned licensed loggers or companies. You folks know Jared Wilbur,
Yes.
and so Jared, and, he's done a lot of work on our place, so he knows it, and he knows, where the boundaries are. Would he be considered, one of, like,
License.
I believe he does have his LTO.
he does,
So I believe Jared and Jason have an LTO.
okay.
So they should be licensed with the state. But if you want to check that out, CAL FIRE has you go on their website and they have a list of actually all the licensed timber operators in the state. If you want to check and see at that point.
Good, thank you.
I did ask the county when they come in and they cut the trees down on the private property, they are responsible to take those trees away. We can't keep those for ourselves for, firewood.
My knowledge is that you should be able to. I would call Christie and get a hold of someone at Environmental Health, because they're the ones dealing with the disaster recovery.
Okay, cause that's who I spoke with, was environmental health.
Hmm.
And
They-
that's what
you
they
still
told me,
own
the
that.
People who cut those
So.
trees and put them on the ground
Hmm.
would be taking those trees away.
That's pretty rude.
There's
But
There-
now this was just the hazardous trees that they're coming in and cutting.
yeah, I think there is one of the one of the companies that under their contract or whatever. I don't know which one it is, but one of the companies I believe does have a contract where they remove the trees fully. The other company does not.
Okay.
So it's gonna be the luck of the draw, I think, as far as
Just
which one you
so
have. So yeah, so I do remember one of the guys telling me that one of the companies has a contract for the full tree removal.
What is the definition of a hazardous tree? I've heard that if they think it's gonna die within 5 years, then they'll cut it down because it could have fallen on, it might fall on some lines or something. Is the 5-year thing, is that true?
I believe that there is, that is going to be based on the arborist that they, have assessing the timber. For them, hazardous trees are trees that are gonna hit power lines, roads, or structures.
But is it saying within 5 years, if they think it's gonna die within 5 years? Or it's gonna be,
They have, some arborists, they call them, they come through and mark all of that, so what exactly they're looking for, their definition of what would be hazardous in mine would probably be different, but, they're relying on the professional opinion of those arborists to make
arborist
that call.
that was going around with them was telling, he told me also if he thinks it's gonna die within 5 years, he's gonna mark it.
So,
Yeah, but he's
So-
from Florida.
Well, I know.
can you
What's he know about our trees?
He's a master arborist, so he knows.
and in some situations, I would definitely argue that.
and that would be going on to Christie again, probably?
That the
I don't
one
know
that
the
didn't
answer
know
to
what a
that.
pine was?
That's it.
If you're on site,
Pines are worth.
and it sounds like, if you're on site when they're marking, then I would, that would be something to, unfortunately, I don't necessarily
When
think.
you're on the site, when they're actually cutting the trees down and nobody's contacted you, can you go down and say, sorry guys, it's my property, you need to leave. I need some answers before you
They
go
may not
any
actually
further."
have the power to,
Yeah,
the people
if-
they're cutting are
if-
the worker bees. They're
Yeah,
not going.
if you sign the right of entry form, I don't know, I don't have an answer for that question.
Go hug your tree. Don't let go.
Chain yourself to it.
And if
Go
you
back.
are worried about it, you are always able to opt out with the county, but then you are responsible for all that they
Yeah.
deem necessary at that point. So, alright, so any more questions on updates, and then we can branch into a couple of petitions we have going. Yes.
Christine.
One question on that, where no inspections or new permits required if the number of bedrooms stayed the same, is that referring to the septic tanks?
Yeah,
Okay.
so as long, it's interesting when it comes to structures and septic tanks, it's not based on the number of bathrooms, it's based on the number of bedrooms and people that will be residing in there, so you could have 3 bedroom, or 3 bath, 2 bedroom, and it's not gonna change.
Alright,
The moment you change the number of bedrooms, then that will change your septic tank requirements.
anything else, or, okay, Jim, go ahead, one more click. Alright, you wanna take this one? Okay, so, we recently found out that Six Rivers National Forest has burned 169,000 acres during this last fire. They're only planning to log 160 of Forest Service. Yeah,
Are you
Is there
kidding?
anything we can do to?
that's what we're getting
That's where
at.
we're going
We're
with this.
getting there. Okay, so, I'm gonna go this way so I can read.
Exactly.
It's
So are we.
possible that they are planning more projects for this fall, but it will be too late for logging by then. So as a community, we kind of need to stand together on this.
Yes.
So public input and comments in favor of logging would help to encourage them to put more energy into cleaning up and to preventing future severe wildfires. We have so much dead standing fuel up there from this fire, and a lot of partially burnt that's just dried kindling. So in 2015, Forest Service had already held 2 public meetings by now. Dan had held them, and even in 2008, he did meetings keeping us updated on what was going on. So, and he was constantly available for contact. There has been no communication from Forest Service at this time. They have not contacted Dan Frazier, they will not arrange meetings, and there's been no public outreach since the end of the fire on November 12th. So, if you are frustrated with Forest Service and its lack of willingness to communicate, we have a set of emails that you can contact and outreach. There is also 2 petitions on the table out there. One is to motivate Forest Service to start doing their job.
Good.
The second, I know, humor me though. The second one is for the logging, because we only have until August to get this logged. So,
For the small diameter wood, the larger diameter timber, most of your small diameter wood, 12 to 8 inches, on the small end, the mills are going to stop taking that wood, within a year, even the big diameter wood, because of the rot and the bugs that are gonna be moving into it. So we literally don't have that much time to try and force the Forest Service's hand. I do have some information that they're planning some work out on ridgetop fuel breaks and oak woodland restoration and stuff, but that does absolutely zero for the huge stands of, you know, merchantable wood that could go to the mill and actually clean the place up and actually, you know, do some good for the community and the environment. So,
What about replanting?
So I've reached out to 3 different organizations. We do have some replanting. For oak, it's actually best to replant just from an acorn, which there is a better how-to list on the table out there for, because oak's native and it's a hardwood. It doesn't burn as fast as fir or pine because it is a softwood. What we had here originally, and it should help prevent some of the severity we've experienced. There is also, if you would choose to replant fir or pine, CAL FIRE has, you can call them for starts, it's like 40 cents for a yearling, and you tell them how many acres. If you want to go that route, post it on Facebook because they like large numbers. So find buddies if you want to go that route. Also, if there's a public advantage to it, CCC has offered up volunteers if you can prove that this would have a public benefit of erosion control, making sure stuff doesn't go in the lake, or replanting a section area, or even putting pressure on Forest Service to replant sections.
More where I was thinking is,
So-
since they've admitted fault, why aren't they paying to replant?
So
Yeah.
you can submit that bill, but because you have to have the salvage log in the area that you're working with for replant, to a certain extent, yes, there's grant for that, and there is NRCS if you want to give a bit of control away for a conservation plan. So those are all options that are available to you, and mostly CCC said that they wanted to work more jointly with Forest Service, but if pressure is given, they can somewhat force a hand. So, because it's all about, they're publicly funded entities, use your voice, there is a list of people to contact and tell exactly how you're feeling. Tammy Frazier wrote an awesome email, which I believe she is willing to let you send as well, because she has all the legal process that's failed in this case.
Awesome.
So there's 2 petitions on the table. We'll have a helper there to help you fill those out, and then they will be up on change.org and posted on the various Facebook pages, and hopefully Kim Kemp and K-Mud by midweek next week. Let's give myself some time there.
We need to
Can
make
you-
it public, get it out on
Yes.
Red-Headed Black Belt and all these other.
I will
Yeah,
get it
we're
public.
going that way with it.
I gotta get a couple days to get it
There's
together.
a lot of good people that can help.
So keep an eye on the Facebook page, share it on your own personal pages. There's the 2 petitions we have separately is 1, get the logging done, 'cause we're on a really short timeline for that. And then 2, get Forest Service to get on it, because we have, 4 or 5 months left of logging for this?
yeah, and at that point, after, you know, say like by the end of this year, it's gonna turn from just a salvage logging to where the logging will actually help pay for the whole, you know, the trees will actually help pay for themselves in the whole process. Whereas, you know, this time next year, 90% of the logging is going to be gone, and what we're gonna be down into is basically rehab work where the Forest Service is, you know, doing grant work and doing their little piddly little projects that they love to do so much, instead of actually jumping on the bandwagon and getting something seriously done.
We gotta be vocal about this, or else it'll end up, we are much more severe than 2015. So we need everyone, reach out to your friends, start calling in, and I have those contact numbers for you, and I have the heads that we need for this area for Forest Service. So I will pass out, I didn't print those, I will pass out those emails, or if you want them, message me on Facebook, or put your number, we'll get a call list going if you want that information, so we can actually get some movement in here. So that's the main thing. And then we do have a meeting scheduled for next month, because we're gonna try and make this a monthly thing. It's gonna be May 15th here at 1 p.m. Again, so we're keeping the 1, and then we're trying to make it monthly. So if you need help with your claim or statement, we should have a notary at the next one as well. And we're gonna try and and keep that moving.
Yeah, we'll explain more about how the next one's gonna roll as we get closer to some of the slides as for what we're doing.
Yes.
From here on, this process is not going to be the easiest process in the world, but Madison and Kenna have spent a lot of time, especially the last couple days of going step by step and hopefully turning the forms that you're gonna see, this form right here, they've taken and gone through step by step and have tried to make it as easy and as simple as possible so that we don't miss anything, because if we miss anything on this form, the Forest Service has a right to just round file it and dismiss it. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible, and we're even going to set it up to where when your form is ready and you're ready to submit your claim, we're going to be available, to proof it for you and make sure that all of our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed, so that we can hopefully get everybody as much out of this as you guys deserve. So that's the plan. Trish.
This is kind of stepping backward 10 minutes ago.
That's
but,
fine.
Have we considered making some signs and walking around and hanging out in front of the Forest Service office? I mean, they do Eureka all the time. Why can't we do it?
At this point, we need noise.
We do.
We do. Yeah.
We need a lot of noise.
Absolutely.
Because our timeline's short, and they can kill the clock by saying that they're making motions, but noise would be great at this point.
We have names and numbers that Madison was talking about. At this point, Jared Huffman, our congressman, Gavin Newsom, anybody, an elected official. Dan Frazier is having issues even getting a hold. Our ranger here, Lark, she is refusing to take phone calls and the like. Get on the phone, call Six Rivers headquarters in Eureka, make noise. Tell them you guys are unsatisfied with the way they're handling this situation out here.
I called right after we were evacuated because for my husband's oxygen tanks to be covered by the insurance, I had to have an incident report of us being evacuated from the fire. And when I called the office here at Mad River, they told me that I had to talk to Seth Thorpe because he's the one who evacuated us. He came in and gave us 15 minutes to get the hell out of our house. That was it, 15 minutes. They never told us before that to leave. But then the forestry says, well, you have to get a hold of Seth because he's the one who did it. And I said, well, how do I do that? She didn't know how. She didn't know where. And so I went back to the oxygen place and they said not to worry because their insurance would cover it because it had at that point become such a big fire.
So since then, because this was deemed a state of emergency, a lot of that became later an exemption where it had the disaster code that was filed federally that then jumped through a lot of those hoops. But the initial, it didn't work very well for anyone.
And some of the names you're going to find on this list as it relates to the Forest Service, we're not aiming for the bottom of the barrel, busy bee workers sitting behind a desk. We're shooting for the top.
And I can give you that.
We're going for the top people in the Forest Service, trying to raise a stink to try and get some movement at some point. Because somewhere, if enough people raise a stink, they're going to have to take note.
So I got the 2 supervisors for this county and their boss for the emails. So those are the people that we need to contact because they're the ones that actually have the power to do something. That would be Ted MacArthur, Kathleen Nick, and Randy Moore. Anyone who wants the emails, come see me after. I've got them. I forgot to print them, but I've got them.
Can you give us those names again?
Yes. So that's Ted MacArthur, Kathleen Mick, and Randy Moore. So they actually all have a period in between the first and last name at USDA.gov.
Oh.
So it makes it simple. What's up? Yes, Emily.
I was wondering, I've been dealing with this on my own because I only have one remaining parent that owns the property. And I have her power of attorney, but she's now at home on hospice care. I've been with her for the last 3 weeks. Do you think it would be to my benefit not to switch ownership of the property until this is settled?
So because you have power of attorney, you're still the legal representative of her. So paperwork-wise, you're still filing as you, as the legal representative. You'll just have to include the power of attorney paperwork in your claim.
Right.
If you want to switch midway, you're still the claimant, so it's not really going to change much if you switch the name of the deed.
Okay.
But that is up to you on which hoops you want to jump through.
I just wanted to make sure they wouldn't try to slither out of that.
You're still the claimant, so.
Slither out of that.
Make sure it includes your parents' name on the stuff.
Oh, yeah.
There's a section that is,
Everything's in both our names.
so you're gonna put number 2, it's going to be you as the claimant, and then listing that you're the legal representative, and number 9, you're gonna list her as the owner and show proof of the deed with the legal paperwork. All right.
Got a question then?
If you give me those emails real quick, I'll print them off for you right now.
Okay.
My
Yes.
husband's still on the deed. He's dead.
Get a
He
note from the
died after
county.
the fire.
What about
Put a copy of the birth certificate.
death certificate?
Yep, put a copy of the birth certificate. And then if you can
Yes.
get a hold of the county, then
Yep.
fine, otherwise just get a copy of the death certificate.
Yeah, I have that.
Sadly so. But make sure anything you give them is just a copy. Do not give them originals of anything. But we're gonna, I think we have enough going on that we can switch into the beginning of the PowerPoint. For any of you that this is a repeat, I'm sorry, but we're mostly newcomers for this meeting. Jim, why don't you go ahead and take me back to the second. Check with Tyler. Okay, he's got some paperwork for you.
Just want to say thank you to and all of you that have done so much here. I was at the last meeting, but thanks.
Grab that bundle if you walk out. Go ahead and give them to me.
I'm gonna go talk.
Yeah.
These two here, see if there's anything.
Okay, I'll handle the next one. All right. So, how many of you are repeats? We're here at the first meeting. All right. So, Kenna's going to be out there. If you don't want to hang around, Kenna, make sure to stop by Kenna, get the petition signed, and grab the new information. And then there is a schedule available if you want to sign up for help. The next 2 weeks, I have time set aside that you can do phone calls or meetings. So, all right. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, the federal tort claim is only filed when there's an act of negligence or wrongdoing. It applies to both injury and damage in response to those actions. And a little bit of transition from the Finland people branch out.
Do you have any idea if our telephone is ever gonna work again?
That would unfortunately be contacting Frontier, and good luck.
Starlink is taking signups now.
I know, Starlink is taking signups.